I'm going to open this particular video with a quote for you to consider. It is better to keep your mouth closed and be thought a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. This is a quote I think more people in the entertainment industry really should be taking to heart these days. More and more, I've been seeing actors and writers and directors and producers churning out shoddy, subpar, terrible works of art, be they movies or books or whatever, and then blaming the audience when they don't like it. This is a practice which has come to be called pulling a Rian Johnson. And the latest person to jump on this bandwagon is Hiroyuki Seshita, one of the directors for the Godzilla anime trilogy. The Associated Press/Washington Post recently did an article in which he was interviewed. It's a terrible article, by the way. Here's just a sample of what it says. Quote, "Although some viewers may find the story rather complicated, Seshita said the film chose to interpret the Godzilla saga as what he called a kind of animism, or a godlike force that is bigger than human existence, a perspective he said was integral to Japanese culture and storytelling." Okay, first of all, that's not actually a new interpretation for Godzilla, but more to the point, some viewers find the story complicated? No! How dare you? You are implying that the reason people don't like these movies is because it's too complex for us? Really? The Godzilla anime trilogy. Here, let's see just how complex these movies are. Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. Mankind has been driven away from Earth by Godzilla. Now they want to come back. Haruo is angry. He wants to kill Godzilla, but he doesn't. Man, that's just too complex for my little pea brain to handle. William Shakespeare's Hamlet is an episode of the Teletubbies compared to Planet of the Monsters. What about City on the Edge of Battle? Exact same thing as Planet of the Monsters, only this time technology is bad. Well, darn, cyberpunk at its finest. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wishes he could weave a plot this complex. Yeah, here's some actual news for you, Washington Post. The reason people don't like the story of the anime trilogy so far isn't because it's too complex for them, it's because it's poorly told. And, in the second movie, it's rehashed. But then again, that's the article's problem. I'm here to talk about what Hiroyuki Seshita said. Here is the section of article that concerns us today. The two directors of Godzilla the Planet Eater acknowledge that their film is so different it might turn off hardcore fans, but they say that's an intentional attempt to reach out to new audiences. "We welcome getting bashed by the Traditionalists," Hiroyuki Seshita, one of the directors, told the Associated Press last week. "That proves more than anything that we succeeded in creating something different." Well, Mr. Seshita, there go the last lingering threads of any respect I may have still had for you. Now, assuming this is an accurate translation of what Seshita said, and given that this is a professional news outlet, I have to assume that it is, how dare you, sir? First of all, you have demonstrated that you completely missed the point of why people don't like your movies. It's not the difference that is the problem. There have been different Godzilla movies before that people have really enjoyed. Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All-Out Attack. Very different. It's considered by many to be the highlight of the Millennium series. Or, more recently, Shin Godzilla. Sure, I didn't like it, but a lot of people do. A lot of people who, by the way, also don't like your movie. Shin Godzilla was also different, so the fact that there isn't that much crossover between fans of that film and fans of your film really should be telling you that it's not the difference which is the problem. No, the problem is the execution. Sure, you made some weird choices to be different, but you didn't actually do them properly. Turning Godzilla into a plant? Certainly different, I will not argue that. But what did it matter? That creative choice has had no effect on the film at all. There's no reason for Godzilla to be a plant. The way in which life on Earth evolved in humanity's absence now that Godzilla was the dominant life form, that would have happened anyway. It had nothing to do with Godzilla being part plant or all plant or however much plant he is. If all of that life had spawned from Godzilla, then you would have actually done something with that change, but otherwise you were being different just to be different. Or, from the look of your quote, you were being different just to tick people off. Or what about Mechagodzilla? Sure, it was different that you designed him to look like a sea slug made from a pile of scrap metal, and I'm not kidding, by the way, Anime-Mechagoji really was designed to look like a sea slug. But then you didn't even do anything with that design. You scrapped it entirely and replaced it with a bunch of buildings that didn't really need a connection to Mechagodzilla in order to exist. And then you didn't really do anything with those buildings, you just used them to rehash the ending of the previous film. Then again, that's certainly not the only different thing you did from your average movie. You also gave us a cast of completely unrelatable, completely uninteresting, one-dimensional characters. Then you gave us a very straightforward plot. Oh, sorry, I meant too complex for me kind of plot. Then you took a bunch of vital information that would have gone a long way to helping the movies make sense, relegated all that information to a bunch of tie-in novels that not everybody in the world is going to read, and thus you were left with a movie that had a lot of unanswered questions and felt like a lot of stuff was missing. That was very different, sir. Aren't you proud that you made a movie that way instead of, like an actual proper movie? And what's all this about making those changes to try and reach a new audience? So you're making this movie for people who don't know anything about Godzilla? You sure don't act like it. This trilogy very clearly assumes that you at least have a general idea of Godzilla and his greater universe. Remember the prologue at the start of Planet of the Monsters? We see all these creatures. What are they? I don't know. I'm a member of that new audience that's never seen a Godzilla movie before, so these creatures that the people around me recognize don't actually register with me. What is the significance of Mechagodzilla? Well, as a member of the new audience, I just think he's a bunch of buildings now. Crazily enough, in the exact same article, they go on to talk about how there are all sorts of hidden Easter eggs and tributes to the Godzilla franchise sprinkled throughout the movies. So which is it? Did you make this movie for a new audience or not? Well, considering you labeled everyone who doesn't like your movie as a traditionalist, I can safely say you didn't make it for the long-time fans. I repeat, the people who don't like your movie, such as myself, do not feel that way because they are stuck in the past. They feel that way because you made bad movies. That's your fault, not ours. It really comes down to the execution. If these movies had gone in a more traditional route, but otherwise were executed exactly the same, they still would have sucked. These movies don't work. And they don't work because they are poorly executed. It's not because you turned Godzilla into a plant, it's because turning Godzilla into a plant was pointless. It's not that you're telling a more human-focused story, it's that your human-focused story is focused on uninteresting humans. It's not that your story is too complex for my little head, it's that it's just bland and boring and not all that complex. And none of that changes when you tell it a second time. But then again, you don't care about our opinion, do you, Mr. Seshida? We're just the traditionalists. We're the people who are stuck in the past, preventing you, the visionary, from doing something different, because doing something different is all that matters, not doing something good. Well, fine then. This is one less traditionalist you'll have to worry about harshing your Mellow. I was going to give Godzilla the Planet Eater a shot. I was going to give this trilogy one last chance to pull itself out of the mire. You've just convinced me to do something else with my time when that film hits Netflix. And you know what? I'm actually grateful for that. Because that's 80 to 90 minutes that I can spend being productive, rather than wasting my time on your crappy storytelling. You know, I am an entertainer myself. I have a book on the market. It is a kaiju novel. It's fairly human-focused. If you go on Amazon and look at the reviews, you will find they are mostly positive. As of this video's posting, it hasn't gotten below a 4-star rating. Now, why do some people give it 4 stars and not 5? Based on the reviews, some of the characters in my story are not as fleshed out as others. They are a bit lacking in development. And you know what? I agree with that assessment. Looking back, yeah, there are a couple of characters in my story that didn't get as much development as I would have liked to give them. So I am taking that critique to heart, and as I work on the second book, I am trying to give those characters that fell to the wayside the first time more attention, and better development. My hope is that when these same people pick up the second book, they will say, yes, this is an improvement. Clearly, this is a man who listens to and respects his audience. And that's what you need to start doing, Mr. Seshita. An audience is the primary thing that separates a professional from a hobbyist. Without the audience, you have no career. Personally, I don't think you understand that, considering you just lumped us all together under one label and then dismissed us. So fine, I'm done with you. Godzilla the Planet Eater is not a film I'm going to waste my time on. And I highly doubt I'm the only person who feels this way. I was going to give you a chance. Now that you've shown your true colors, you've forfeited your right to another chance. I'm going to put my attention towards artists who respect their audience, and I'm going to continue striving to be one of those artists myself. You go ahead and brag about how you succeeded in being different. We'll see if the box office numbers justify it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like it, as well as subscribe to the channel for more content of a similar nature. Also, check the description for links to our Twitter, DeviantArt, and Patreon pages, as well as the Amazon link for the novel Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, penned by yours truly. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.